Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. You know, spring is in the air and with it comes one of my favorite holidays, Mother's Day. And it's not necessarily for me, but it's for all the moms and grandmothers and special women in all of our lives. So we're going to talk about special occasion food today. And I'm going to do two of my mom's favorite recipes and then one that I named for her in the first cookbook. So let's start with the chicken artichoke spread. That recipe is going to get you rid of all those cheese balls that you make all the time. It has protein in it. And then we'll move into crab cakes with the Remoulade sauce on top of a Lowcountry wafer. My mouth is watering just talking about it. And then finally, Betty's citrus blueberry pound cake with a twist. Have you ever done a pound cake in a sheet pan? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that today and make an amazing dessert. And in Vera's Corner, we're going to do Pavlova. So that's another unique dessert. So I'm ready to put my apron on and get in the kitchen. All right, so I've got a great idea for something to put on the table that's a spread that's not a cheese ball. And certainly for me, it's always wonderful when I can pick up some of the ingredients that are pre-done for me. And so this calls for cut up, diced, chunky chicken. So pick up one of those and then a lot of the work's already done for you. So I've got that in my bowl and like I said, this is kind of chunky. So now I'm gonna add in my shaved Parmesan cheese, and that is also in the deli portion of the fresh market. So you can get it grated, shredded, shaved, whatever you want. And then this is their brand of cream cheese, and I actually really love it as well. And to do this, I like to maybe zap it in the microwave for just a little bit, just so it's easier to spread. Now I've got my Hellmann's mayonnaise. I'll add that in. And you know, I do generally speak to some of the brands that I like to use, and for me, this is not quite as oily, so that's why I like to use it in this recipe. Okay, the artichokes are in a jar. They're artichoke hearts, and you're just gonna take your knife and just get those chunky. That's the word for this spread, is that it's a chunky spread. All right, then the next ingredient is Pearson Farms pecan pieces. And I mean, they're just perfect. The perfect size for this dish. And if you want a nuttier flavor to this, I really love when I've got nuts in anything, I really love to be able to taste them. You know, you can toast these for a few minutes. Spring onions adds a pop of color, not to mention flavor. And then I've got freshly squeezed lemon juice, kosher salt. And this ingredient might be new to you. We all use Lowry's seasoned salt, but this is Lowry's seasoned pepper. So look for that because it really is a nice ingredient in this dish. So basically, you're just gonna mix this together. And remember, chunky is key. And when I'm doing a chunky spread on a table, you know, a cracker may not hold up exactly right for this. So this is when I suggest the toasted baguettes that are where the bread is at the fresh market, because they're just the right consistency to put a spoonful of this on a baguette as opposed to a cracker. Now let's talk about artichokes for a minute. So artichokes do not like the South because they do not like cold weather. That's the only reason they wouldn't like the South, because we cook with them quite a bit. But they're grown in California and they grow to be about 3 feet tall. And the actual artichoke that we use is the bud of that plant. So it's just a really, if you're ever out in the California area, you'll see fields and fields of these. All right, so we're gonna get this mixed together really well. I'm gonna cover it to put it in the refrigerator, and then we're gonna do a very unusual design for this and presentation today. All right, so up next is crab cakes with the Remoulade sauce and a Lowcountry wafer. I can't wait. See you back in just a minute. Welcome back, everybody. And if you're just joining me, we are talking about special occasions during the spring time of year. And certainly for me, Mother's Day is right around the corner. I love to make things that remind me of my mom during Mother's Day, and certainly I hope you will try some of these recipes. They're always on our website at VeryVera.com. So we're doing this for Mother's Day, but keep this recipe in mind for a cocktail party, a baby shower, anything that you're doing, because so much of this can be done in advance, and that's what you're looking for when you're entertaining. All right, so I had a little bit I had to do in advance. So I got my saucepan ready with 2 tablespoons of butter. I had my celery and my sweet onions chopped really fine, and you're just going to saute those until both of them are translucent. It takes about a minute and a half. So I had that done. So first you start with lump crab meat, and it's near the meat department at the fresh market. It's just in a plastic container, so don't buy the imitation. Be sure you buy the lump crab. All right, so I've just kind of worked it a little bit with my hands, but you want it to be chunky. All right, to that I'm going to add breadcrumbs. And you can also pick these up, just plain breadcrumbs at the fresh market. I've got 1 whole egg that's been beaten. Now we're going to add in that celery and onions that I did in advance. And honestly, when you do that, it's just like I can see Thanksgiving dinner getting ready to go on the table. That smell just reminds me of Thanksgiving. Hellmann's mayonnaise again. Then I've got freshly chopped parsley, and then freshly chopped dill. And then I've got Creole seasoning. All right, so we're gonna just mix all of this together. And you don't wanna, do it lightly, because you want this. What makes this so good to me is the fact that you can tell you're eating crab. It's very flavorful, but if you mix it too much, you're breaking up those pieces of crab. All right, so beside me, I've got a little scoop. And if you're not familiar with Pampered Chef, I recommend that you look them up, because so many things that all of us that are home cooks use, they have, and it just makes it really easy for you. So I'm gonna use this. This is a 1 ounce scoop. And basically what I'm doing is I want to just shape it more or less into a ball. And I've got a sheet pan ready. So let's see how many we can get on this pan. All right, so now I've got a row done, and I'm just going to flatten them. They'll be a little more than 1/4 of an inch. Just keep in mind that we're going to put these on top of a saltine cracker, so you don't want them wider than that. All right, so we got that pan completely done. So now what I'm doing is coating them in the breadcrumbs. And while I'm doing that, I've already got the olive oil in my pan and getting it really good and hot, because that's how you get that sear. All right, so all of these are done. They look great. And I had the oil kind of getting hot while I was finishing this, but I always love to test it by putting just a little bit in there just to make sure it's good and hot and just the right temperature before I start adding the rest. You want to have that little bit of a sizzle. So I'm going to do 1 row at a time, and these are going to take about 2 minutes to get nice and brown, and then we'll flip. All right, so I think these are ready to flip. Look at that golden brown. I can tell you these are a favorite in our area, and we do these a lot during the golf tournament as well. All right, so while they're cooking on the other side, let me tell you about the Lowcountry wafers that we did. So these are just melted butter, and I actually love to let the butter come to room temperature. My under-the-counter microwave is probably one of my favorite pieces of equipment in this kitchen, and I did 10-second intervals. It probably took 3 of those to get it to exactly what I was looking for. I'm gonna take my sheet pan, cover it dull side up with aluminum foil, put a rack on top of that, and then I just took my tongs and just dipped those crackers down in the butter and laid them on that rack. So I placed these in a 275-degree oven for approximately 20 to 25 minutes. You're looking for a nice golden brown. And the good part about this, when I mentioned there's things that you can do in advance, you can get these done in advance. The crackers will last in an airtight container, so you can get everything done but putting them together at the last minute. All right, so I'm gonna finish this. In Vera's Corner, we're gonna talk about Pavlova, which is an amazing dessert, and then we're gonna go into our Betty's Citrus Blueberry Pound Cake that's cooked in a sheet pan instead of a bundt pan. So we got a lot more to do. Come back with us in just a few minutes. Vera's Corner is brought to you by TaxSlayer. Pavlova is a decadent and delicious meringue dessert. Topped with whipped cream and fruit, it ends any meal on a high note. Let me give you a recipe today for making individual Pavlova. With an electric mixer set to medium, whisk together 6 egg whites, a teaspoon of cream of tartar, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt for 3 minutes. Let the mixer keep running and add in 1 1/4 cups of sugar, a spoonful at a time. Keep whipping for about 6 minutes until the meringue is thick and can form stiff peaks. Cover a baking sheet with parchment paper, spoon on big dollops of meringue, and create a well in the center to hold the fillings. Bake at 250 for 1 hour and 20 minutes, rotating the pan halfway through. Once meringues have cooled completely, fill the cavity with whipped cream, jam, or fresh fruit. Pavlova is light and fluffy, perfect for any time of year. Start free today at TaxSlayer.com. Welcome back, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed Vera's Corner. You know, Pavlova has kind of become a very popular dessert. Maybe you didn't know how to make it. It would be something fun to do with the grandchildren or your children. So please try that out. All right, so obviously I love to entertain. My career of 40 years has been centered around catering and doing things special for occasions. And for me, seasonally has been the key. And so when I did the second cookbook, Occasions, the chapters are by the seasons of the year. And you can look for that special something for any particular occasion. So the first 2 recipes I did today are out of the brand new book. But this next recipe is my mother's namesake cake that's in the first cookbook. And we just decided that it would be fun to do something a little different with it. We have made the pound cake so many times on the show, but if you have missed it, let me refer you to YouTube. We have a complete, thorough operation of how to make that cake on a show I did in season 8, and it was actually Lou's poppy seed, which is named for my younger sister, and she actually joined me on that show. So I'd love for you to check that out and just walk through with me all the steps. But today we went ahead and made the batter. So here again, if you missed that, be sure to check that out. We also recently auctioned this cake and all of the other cakes that we made in our mail order company for years for a fundraiser for Apero Academy that's located here in Augusta. I really want you to check this out. It is an amazing medical related school for special needs children. I'd love for you to know more about it. All right, so to this beautiful batter, we are now going to add the rest of the ingredients that make it special. So it starts with zest from an orange. And you want to do this by hand and not in the mixer so you can incorporate it really well and it doesn't stick to the beaters. Then you place your frozen blueberries in a bowl. And again, keep them frozen until the last minute. And you're going to add to that 1/4 cup of cake flour and just toss it. And the reason for this is that it keeps them coated so that they will thoroughly incorporate into the batter, and they also will not float to the bottom of the batter when we put it into the pan. I've also sprayed a 13 by 18 inch pan with my floured baking spray. And then I'm just gonna pour that incorporated batter with the blueberries and the citrus zest in there. Just dump it all in the center and then just take your spatula, spread it out really well. And then you wanna tap the pan at least 3 times. And then my oven is preheated to 300 degrees. I'm gonna bake it for 30 minutes. Then you're gonna turn your oven up to 325 for an additional 15, and what you're looking for is golden brown on the top and the bottom, and that's actually what we have. And what I love to do is take a knife and you just lean it against the edge of the pan so that you've got a clean surface there to work with. And what we're doing is we're doing individual desserts, just like we did the Pavlova in Vera's Corner today. I've got a 2-inch biscuit cutter and just go straight down with it and turn, and it comes right out. And these are gonna be the little individual desserts. So this reminds me, and you see the Ziploc bag, all the scraps that we used to have in the bakery, we would bag them up, and when you came to eat lunch, we would give you a favor at the end. All right, so I've got a little bit to do. Next step is presentation, and you know that's my favorite too. So come back with me to see how it all looks presented. Welcome back, everybody, and I've had the best time today. You know, it's always a celebration around Mother's Day. It's the one time of year we all get celebrated. And for me, it just is a refresher course on all the things that my mom taught me. Learning how to set the table at an early age, being part of entertaining. I always had a task that I had to be responsible for. It's still with me today. So generally speaking, I walk you through every single step of every recipe. So today I'm going to kind of weave a personal story in with that about my mom. So let's start with the chicken artichoke dip. You know, generally speaking, that's taking the place of a cheese ball. So don't make it into a ball. Make it into something unusual, a box, an oval. But today, since it's Mother's Day, and this is so easy to work with, we spelled out mom on this platter. So if you're having a luncheon or even dinner, this would make a great appetizer platter to have outside on the patio or whatever. I just love the way that that turned out. The next recipe we did was the crab cakes with the Remoulade sauce and the Lowcountry crackers. The Remoulade sauce is so easy to make, and I just refer you to our website to get that recipe. All the ingredients come together and it just dollops beautifully on the top of each of those cakes. And then finally, the blueberry pound cake that was made into a sheet cake. You know, sheet cakes are generally a layer cake batter, so how moist and dense and delicious this cake is really brings this to the table. And we stacked it. We put 2 little cakes on top, put the whipped cream in the middle, and garnished it with strawberries and blueberries. So speaking of blueberries, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, Go By Plants has those trees. All right, so what I'd love to do right now is talk a little bit about the person that I am today because of the woman that raised me, my mom. I was the middle of 5 children. My mother's husband, my dad, passed away when she was 40 years old, and she raised 5 children by herself. The little needlepoint I did when I was in college for my mom that said, Lord, how did I do it? And you know, as I've grown older, I truly do not know how she did. And she just never complained. I never saw her cry. She would always have a positive attitude. She was a school teacher. I had kids come up to me and say, your mom is such a wonderful teacher. You know, these are the things that I remember about her. So when I have a celebration, I love to bring some of her things out. This is her china. This is her silver. The little trinket that I have on the platter with the crab cakes was something that she had beside her bed. And so I use it a lot to garnish. The little dish here, I used to always think, oh, I'd love to have that to put my things in my bedroom. She was so protective of it, but now I have it, and I think of her quite often. So it started with her mother right here and went to my mom and now is with me. So let me also refer to some of my partners that helped me with the show. The blueberries that are on these trays that were made with the cake, you can actually buy that plant from Go Buy Plants. So please check them out. All the things right now, it's the perfect time to plant, but that might be something you might enjoy having in your yard. And then Hester and Cook. Obviously, everything that I've pulled out is amazing, but just look at how it pops with the peonies and the lattice work placemats and the green runner. I kind of matched the table today, so that's been a lot of fun. So please remember to go to YouTube and look at some of the past episodes to get ideas, but always remember that no matter what you do, do it in good taste, and please come back and join me next week. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.